Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Newly released body cam footage from the arrest of dozens of protesters on the Indiana University Bloomington campus.
Move back! Move back! Move back! Move back! Move back! Move back!
Our Ethan Sandweiss joins us with details on what the videos show. After decades of improvement, the number of minors living with black lung disease is increasing.
It's as bad in some parts of the country as it was back in the early 1970s.
Coming up, what's causing the increase and why it's so hard for people with the disease to get treatment. Plus, explaining the IUPUI split, what's ahead for IU Indianapolis and Purdue Indianapolis as they go their separate ways. Those stories plus the latest news headlines right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. After decades of strict regulation, rates of black lung disease are increasing in the mining industry. The disease is a lot to manage because it affects so many parts of the body and leads to multiple conditions. Some treatments are available, but as Clayton Baumgarth reports, getting access to care can often take years.
It's been nearly 40 years since Jeffrey Chandler left the coal mining industry.
It was a very dirty job. We would come home and we had to take our clothes off before we even went in the house, got in the shower. Our sinuses was just full of black coal. We'd breathe that daily, nightly.
He started working in mines in 1975 after serving in the military. A surface mining program at Ivy Tech set him up for immediate success.
We started out at $50,000 in 1976. Plus a truck allowance. The benefits was awesome. So that's what I did.
For a decade, Chandler worked as a drilling and blasting supervisor at various mines throughout Indiana, including Peabody Coal, Squaw Creek, and Rogers Energy in conjunction with the Black Beauty Coal Company. For a decade, he and his colleagues breathed in dangerous coal ash from surface mining operations.
I was a supervisor, and the safety never once told us you should wear a mask. That it just wasn't thought of. You just did your job and go,
Now in his 70s, he suffers from black lung disease, an ailment affecting about 16% of those who work in the coal industry. He has an oxygen respirator, a lung spray inhaler administered twice a day, and 3 separate medications to manage his symptoms. The disease also affects his immune system.
I was in intensive care for 33 days. I didn't wake up for 33 days 2 years ago with pneumonia. I suffer from these all the time, constantly. So I just have to wear a mask, be careful where I'm breathing.
It's a lot to manage because according to one of the leading experts in the region, black lung isn't simply one single condition.
Black lung disease is what really the general public calls the spectrum of diseases that coal miners get from breathing in coal mine dust over the course of their careers.
Breathing in dust from mining can cause COPD, emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and more due to scarring of the lungs. And once a miner has coal ash in their lungs, there's no going back.
There really isn't much we as in the medical community can do aside from kind of supportive type treatments, inhalers like we would for COPD or people who need oxygen.
In 1969, Congress passed the Federal Coal Mine Health and Safety Act to better protect industry workers. But now, after decades of improvement, the number of miners living with black lung disease has started to increase. Though it's unclear why that is, some experts say that surface mining circulates coal dust more than underground operations. Others say the addition of other minerals in the dust can cause more scarring in the lungs.
It's as bad in some parts of the country as it was back in the early 1970s. And we think that's really because of silica that's in the rock that's cut next to the coal.
For those with black lung, the Department of Labor has programs that can disperse financial compensation from coal companies. But making the connection between miners in need and program administrators can be a challenge.
It's hardest to get the info out to people that weren't in a union mine because we don't know where to just randomly search for coal miners. So most of ours are union miners, but it's to anyone that was a coal miner.
Luckily for Chandler, a chance run-in with Rogers at a local restaurant led him to help.
I worked next door. Asked her what she did, and she told me she was with black lung benefits, and told me a little bit about it. And I said, "My gosh, can you help me?"
Since 2021, she's assisted him in getting appropriate medical care and in navigating the stacks of paper needed to receive roughly $800 a month in financial aid. Chandler's case is typical. Some defunct coal companies have a trust fund to pay claims relatively easily, but others take years of lobbying to see results.
It depends on kind of how ruthless the coal company attorney is, because if they're constantly fighting everything and constantly sending them on exams, or we want a deposition or whatever it may be, that slows the process down.
For Chandler, he was lucky to stumble into the assistance that he got. Now, he wants other miners to know there is help out there for those in need by contacting the Department of Labor's Black Lung Program.
She's really helped me and a lot of people. But there's so many people out there that don't know that. They need to realize that, hey, you got a problem, that there is help.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
In November of last year, the Black Lung Benefits Improvement Act was introduced in an effort to increase the monthly assistance given to sick miners. It has since been referred to the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions for further review. Indiana University and Purdue University officially ended IUPUI. Reporter Aubrey Wright has more on plans for separate research campuses in Indianapolis.
While celebrating a new Purdue campus, Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett told a story of rivalry. Though he's the son of a Purdue University graduate, Hogsett went to Indiana University. His Boilermaker father had a simple explanation.
My father would swell with pride and look back at his Purdue friends and say, because he couldn't get in Purdue.
While the two schools were rivals on and off the court, they did share a campus in Indianapolis, IUPUI. But the collaborative campus experiment ended after 55 years on July 1st. IU Indianapolis and Purdue University in Indianapolis took its place. In celebrating his alma mater, Hogsett marked July 1st as IU Indianapolis Day.
Welcome to Indianapolis.
IUPUI students will still finish degrees on the path they signed up for. Those students will likely filter out around 2027. Starting this fall, new students will enroll in IU or Purdue. With the new campus in the capital city, university leaders are planning to grow and take advantage of their neighbors.
We know the first couple of years, there'll be a lot of transition to that, and we'll make sure that we grow at a pace that enables students to have a phenomenal experience.
IU Indianapolis will support about 20,000 students this fall. It also struck a deal to automatically admit eligible local public school students. Witten announced IU is investing millions for an athletic center, STEM programs, and new facilities. Existing programs, like art, business, law, and medicine, will be updated.
We are a comprehensive university as well, so that will continue and expand.
Former Purdue President Mitch Daniels and Witten set the split in motion 2 years ago. He says Purdue needed its own identity.
I think this is the right move at the right time, but takes nothing away from the great legacy of IUPUI.
IU is keeping 85% of the student body and supporting about 400 academic programs. It's keeping IUPUI's facilities and the Jaguars' athletics.
In terms of life on campus, nothing's really changing. We see all the different signs, but it's just a refresh.
Junior Nolan Campbell says it's exciting to keep the IU name attached to his degree. And IU Indianapolis is just steps away from job opportunities.
As soon as we step out of the classroom, we're there, which is something we can't say about any other campus.
There was confusion when the split was announced, and there's still grief in the end. But Faculty Council President Philip Goff says there's also excitement because this campus and city have untapped potential.
I think that this change is really going to tap into that and even prime the pump, in a sense, to get things really going for the workforce and to create a more educated citizenry throughout central Indiana.
Supporters of the split are saying more Hoosiers will earn useful degrees and staying in Indiana.
This is about creating jobs and workforce and innovation together. It's about economic growth.
For the time being, IU is sharing some of its dorms and buildings with Purdue students. Purdue kept IUPUI's engineering, computer science, and technology programs. Its new programs include pharmaceutical and motorsports engineering. Purdue Indianapolis students will earn West Lafayette degrees and pay the same tuition rate as the flagship campus. There will be free shuttles back and forth between the two cities. In the next few years, students from every department can study and live in Indianapolis.
This is not a regional campus. This is part of Purdue's main campus.
Purdue plans to add about 28 acres to its Indianapolis campus, including a massive academic success building. Purdue had a record number of applicants this year. A major component of Purdue and Indianapolis's mission is hands-on experience. Purdue already partners with about 500 companies for experiential learning, and it plans to increase that number.
We are going to grow in Indianapolis. This is, for us, year one.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
The schools didn't provide specific numbers, but said that the majority of faculty members are becoming Indiana University employees. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk.
Democrats will pick their ticket this weekend for the November general election. And an Indiana man who's used to living off the grid hopes his experience can help him win a Survivor-type reality show on the History Channel.
These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Let's make the most of this summer.
There's about to be a whole lot of love in this kitchen.
Smells good in here.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
Disco started with parties.
Good times, good feeling.
It brings people joy.
I don't need a detective, but they will do.
This is what we've got, and we can make it ours. It's so good.
We cover all the angles. We report the facts. We find clarity. PBS is here, delivering the credible, reliable, thoughtful election coverage you need to make informed decisions. PBS, your trusted election source.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, it's been more than 3 months since police arrested dozens of pro-Gaza protesters on the Indiana University Bloomington campus. Now, this week, our newsroom obtained state police body camera footage from arrest. Reporter Ethan Sandweiss has been combing through that footage to add to our understanding what led up to 57 arrests in April. So, Ethan, how did we get the video?
So we had reporters there on the ground in April covering this. Soon after the arrests happened, the station researcher, Kathy Knapp, and I submitted a public records request to the state police, and about 70 days later now that has come in.
So, you have been covering this extensively. What is new? Any surprises?
So there's a lot new just in terms of raw footage. We're working with around 53 hours of footage from those 2 days, so that's a lot to go through. So far, what has stood out is some of the conversations between police officers on the day of the arrests. So, for example, we found out that they had planned to arrest 2 of the student protest leaders before going in on that Saturday in April.
As soon as we go 10 minutes, those 2 are immediate.
Okay, is that the guy with the goggles right there, and then the bullhorn guy, right?
That is correct.
Significant because IU said it called in the state police for basically 2 reasons. First of those is to maintain safety. Second one is to remove tents because they said they violated a no tent policy. But this kind of complicates that narrative a little bit.
So it's been over 2 months since the arrest. What do things stand in a legal perspective right now?
Well, as my colleagues reported, the Monroe County Prosecutor's Office has declined to actually file charges against anyone who was arrested for trespassing, including those 2 students who were targeted on that particular day. Other charges have been dropped. And so far, the ACLU has also been suing IU over those no trespass bans as well, and that last-minute policy change.
So we see we've been reporting on the IU trustees proposed a new expressive activities policy to replace policies on Dunn Meadow. What are you seeing there, and how could that affect future encampments?
Yeah, so the draft policy as written would replace that Dunn Meadow policy, as you said, and it would prohibit overnight protests and camping, which is what's going on in Dunn Meadow right now. But according to the administration's current reading of IU policy, that encampment already violates university rules. So I don't necessarily see any indication that this is going to lead to a renewed state police presence.
All right, Ethan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, now for headlines, we go to Clayton Baumgarth, who has the latest news from around the state. Hi, Clayton.
The Indiana Democratic Party will host its convention this weekend to nominate its candidates for lieutenant governor and attorney general. The event is similar to the Republican Party's convention last month, in which delegates chose Noblesville pastor Micah Beckwith to run with GOP gubernatorial candidate Mike Braun. 2 women have stepped up as candidates for attorney general, Lieutenant Colonel Destiny Wells and former county clerk Beth White. They're challenging incumbent Todd Rokita. 4 candidates are vying to compete alongside Democratic gubernatorial nominee Jennifer McCormick. McCormick's top choice is former state representative Terry Goodwin. The other 3 candidates are Indianapolis's Cliff Marsiglio, Tammy Dixon Tatum, who fell short on ballot signatures when running to challenge McCormick, and perennial candidate Bob Kern. Cummins and Stellantis will join 9 other union shops in helping to nearly double the number of electric vehicles made in the U.S. every year. The Biden administration awarded the $1.7 billion grant to transform auto facilities to make more electric vehicles and parts. Cummins already makes some electric vehicles, but now about half of its plant in Columbus will be dedicated to zero-emissions vehicles. The U.S. Undersecretary for Infrastructure says this is an important move not only for the environment, but also national security, because for decades, the U.S. has been dependent on oil from other countries.
And what we don't want to do is substitute for that dependence on foreign sources of manufacture that are critical to the 21st century life that we all want to lead. So building up these supply chains right here in the United States is a critical part.
The EV projects could have a big impact on the climate. Transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S. The Monroe County Council is indefinitely tabling a motion to deappropriate more than $10 million meant to go toward a new county jail. The motion was meant to signal the council's displeasure with the county commissioners over a disagreement over the jail project. Last month, the commissioners announced the council and sheriff must decide the new jail's bed count, but councilors say they understood the commissioners would do so. Councilmember Kate Wilt suggested the motion because she says she wants to understand the implications of deappropriating the funds.
I certainly don't want to mess up, county business. I'm not trying to stonewall. I'm trying to better understand.
She says most, if not all, the money was part of a bond anticipatory note which has been paid off. She wants to know what that means for the funds and whether it's all still appropriated. It's unclear when the council could reintroduce the motion. Monroe Circuit Court is granting Bloomington's request to finalize the June 18th annexation judgment so it can be appealed. The court ruled against the city in the case challenging the state's 2019 annexation law on the validation of remonstrance waivers. The final order can now be appealed by the city. The city argued for immediate appellate review, saying further delay could lead to more damage and expenses for parties involved. This case applies to areas 1C, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Areas 1A and 1B were dismissed by the city in this case, with a separate bench trial in May that is awaiting a decision. A cybersecurity expert says it could be a while until the full impact of a ransomware attack on Monroe County government is known. The county is working with a third party to investigate the attack, but says it can't estimate how long this will take.
It does depend on the resources that the third party is throwing at the problem. Basically, unfortunately, just the size of the pocketbook here, because this type of remediation doesn't come cheap.
The county says information so far indicates no employee-sensitive information has been misused. Shackelford says the best-case scenario is that data exposure was minimal and no personally identifiable information was compromised. In the worst cases, entities targeted and cyber attacks paid ransoms. Shackelford says this is especially true for hospitals where patient lives are on the line. Clay County was also targeted in a possible ransomware. County offices will have to be closed as a result. Indiana's Regional Cities Initiative created GDP, population, and employment growth in the counties that received its funding. That's from a new study out of Ball State that examined the 2015 program developed under Governor Mike Pence. $126 million was awarded to 3 regions, totaling 18 counties. The money generated a $1.6 billion economic impact.
Forced communities to sit down and prioritize, get broad-based consensus on what they were going to do, identify projects, investments, building construction in schools or neighborhoods that would benefit not just that neighborhood, but the region as a whole.
Regional Cities was a forerunner to the state's current READY program. Hicks says evaluating READY will be more challenging because every county receives some funding. A new interactive public art installation is going up at the 4th Street parking garage in Bloomington. The city describes it as an immersive light installation that creates an open-air tunnel with a free-flowing animated lighted experience. The installation was originally created for the 2023 Exhibit Columbus Architecture event. And Joe, there's an installation ceremony beginning tonight at 9 at the south alley of the 4th Street garage.
I was wondering why it was so late at night and then realized, well, it's an immersive illumination.
Got to be able to see it.
You have to be able to see that. It should be fun walking by there. Thank you so much, Clayton. A man from Salem, Indiana is on the latest season of survival show Alone on the History Channel. The show takes 10 people skilled in wilderness survival and drops them off in a remote location with nothing but some tools and camera gear. This year they braved a brutal winter in the Arctic Circle to be the last one standing and take home $500,000. Katie Spack spoke with this year's Hoosier contestant about why he decided to try out for the show.
Timber Cleghorn is a humanitarian aid worker who lives in Salem. He grew up completely off the grid in southern Indiana, where he learned how to live off the land farming and hunting for food.
I can also remember leaving home at 19 years old and not even knowing how to order food at McDonald's. And so that was a unique perspective, to be more familiar with how to butcher a chicken than how to order a fried chicken.
He found aid work during a summer trip helping orphanages in Ukraine. He and his family recently found work helping refugees with medical care and rehousing in Afghanistan. Cleghorn had watched one season of the show but stopped after that.
I just refused to watch anymore for years because I'm like, if I can't do this, I'm not watching it. It bothers me to watch other people doing what I love to do.
125 miles north into the Arctic Circle is pretty crazy.
No one around to hear me, except God and the wilderness.
He decided to apply for the show in between aid projects as a way to recover from his stress overseas.
And I look over on the couch one day and my kids have turned on Alone. And in that moment, I decided that's what I need to do while I'm stateside.
I know that there's a lot of cracks in my mind, in my psyche, even in my will. But I've learned to maneuver around those and to make peace with them.
Cleghorn's been watching every episode as it airs with his wife and 2 young boys. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Katie Spack.
You can also follow Timber on his journey as the season continues. New episodes premiere Thursday nights at 8 on the History Channel, with the next day streaming through August. A former state lawmaker will spend 1 year and 1 day in federal prison for his role in a 5-year-old gambling corruption case. Former Representative Sean Ebert pleaded guilty this week to 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud. The plea agreement does not include a specific sentence. Federal sentencing guidelines for the offense level are between 37 and 46 months. The government did agree to recommend a sentence on the lower range based on Eberhart accepting responsibility. The Republican from Shelbyville accepted a lucrative job opportunity with gambling company Spectacle Entertainment in exchange for his support of the bill allowing the transfer of casino licenses to areas beneficial to Spectacle. City of Bloomington is looking for volunteers to help with an insect inventory at Griffey Lake Nature Preserve. The project seeks to identify what species are present in the preserve so city specialists can better support them. The project is also looking for endangered and invasive species. Invasive species can cause harm to native plants and outcompete other species for food and resources. Spotted lanternflies and emerald ash borers are two invasive species to look out for. Interested participants can download the iNaturalist app, take a picture of an insect, and it will identify it. Well, that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller-Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.